Hi, everyone, and welcome back to In the Vine. I don't even know what episode this is. Do you know?
4. I think we're
I don't
on
know
4,
why I
right?
came in so hot. Do you
She's
know?
excited. We're on episode 4.
Yes. And as you guys can see, well, here with me today I have.
Shekinah.
Hello, Shekinah. Would you like to introduce our guest for our guest?
I don't remember their names. No, thanks for putting me on the spot. No, actually, I'm super excited that we have Maverick and we have Jules with us today. They have recently gotten engaged.
Yeah. Oh my
and
goodness.
we are here to hear their amazing, elaborate wisdom.
Yes.
So I know that our listeners are going to be really excited to hear what you guys have to say.
Yes.
No pressure.
Very exciting.
Hello.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Of course. All right. Already messing up. That's it. Get out. Just kidding.
Episode's over.
Yeah. All right.
They complete each other's sentences.
Right?
This is how it's been ever since they walked in the room. We've just been like giggling, and I don't know what it is. It might be, I don't know, but I turned off the fan. So yeah. So how are you guys doing? What do you think? How are you feeling?
Feeling good.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to
Yeah.
see where this is gonna go.
Same.
I'm excited who this is gonna reach, and
Yes.
hopefully someone, even if it's just one,
Yeah.
as long as it
All of us
touches
here.
one. Yeah. But yeah, I'm hoping people can get something out of this.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yes, I think this is gonna be the most I'm ever gonna hear Maverick talk. Right? For a lot of people.
Really
Yeah,
the
for
only
like,
reason
this
we
is gonna-
invited him.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
like, we just need to hear him talk more.
Yeah.
This is the most you're gonna get.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a
So,
lot for a lot of people.
right? It's like, wow.
Right?
So you might have a new best friend in Maverick at the end of this. I don't know.
We'll see where this goes.
Yeah. So before we get into the nitty gritty with them, of course, we have our structure of the ways that we do our episodes. So I'm going to ask our panel question for today, and that is, Shekinah, can you please ask this freaking question? Because
Oh, I didn't think you'd actually put it
I
in there.
have to. It's so funny.
Oh my gosh. So I as a joke asked the question, would a pet allergy ruin a relationship, or can a pet allergy ruin a relationship? So now I want to know.
Yes.
What does everybody think?
Yeah.
Melissa?
Alyssa, can you answer?
Do all of the above? Okay, wait. For me, it's not I think it can actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think a pet allergy, because it's the pet or the guy or the girl, right? Especially
I
if it's
agree.
a pet that you've had for like years.
Yeah, I agree.
Sheesh. What would you do?
I've been in that situation. Yeah, I dated a guy who was allergic to cats, and I was just like, I'm
That's
really
tough.
not that into you. It's fine.
Actually, you're not that cute.
I was just delusional.
And honestly, like I said, it would really have to be God, and it would really, I've also met people who are just like, I just really fell in love with this person, and it didn't bother me that they had a pet allergy. I had to get rid of my pets. Like they just loved each other that much. So. But for me personally, unless that there's just a God moment,
Right.
first love at first, like
Miracle.
love at first sight type of thing. I'm just not gonna give up my pets. You know? I love my animals. I'm an animal person all the way through. I
Yeah.
have a cat, but
It ruined our relationship.
yeah,
actually.
exactly.
We moved out because
We had a
So
roommate
you're
that was
living
allergic to
proof
cats.
that it ruins
I
relationships.
felt so bad. I was like, she was allergic to cats, but she was trying. She was
Yeah.
just like, she's like, no, it's fine. You can keep them in the house. I'm totally okay. And over there, her eyes are swollen shut. And I'm like,
She can't see.
whoa. She was trying to be so
I
sweet
promise
about
I'm
it.
fine.
And I looked over. She's literally sneezing and she's breaking out. And I was like,
Go to your room.
Yeah, it's like,
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, that's my answer. Yeah, I think a pet allergy could definitely ruin a relationship.
Yeah, I think I agree. Because the same thing, if you have the pet for such a long
Yeah.
time, it's
Yeah.
you've built a bond with this pet. I'm a big, I'm a dogs person for sure.
Are
So
you?
my dog's he knows she's my baby girl. I
I
love
like
her.
how you
in
looked at me
between.
in the eye.
Yeah,
Like, he knows.
He knows. He knows, right? Yeah. So I think yeah, but I think it's not. It doesn't have to be the determining factor.
Mhm.
Oh, are you allergic
Yeah.
to pets? Then no, it's not gonna work out.
Yeah. Can you
So I
imagine?
think it
First
can go-
date question.
First date
Right?
question. All right, bye.
That's your red flag.
Do you have allergies because you put the animal on the table?
You bring it from under the table.
What do you think, Mavi?
I think it can, but it shouldn't. Yeah.
Okay.
obviously, like if you're gonna know you're gonna marry this person,
Yeah.
like I'm sorry, like hey mom, I'm gonna send a dog with you because this person's allergic. Like you can do other things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
like-
but why do you have to get rid of the dog? Why can't you
Oof.
just?
Well, because like if you know, you know. Like
Oof.
if you're gonna marry the person and like I have a dog, like I can send a dog with like my mom,
Yeah, true.
or I can send a dog with like someone else, and like I
New
can still see the
premarital
dog.
counseling
True.
question.
Ooh, that should be
Yeah.
a counseling question.
So I think it definitely can, but I don't think you should let it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Depends on how deep you are with the person.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah.
you've been dating this person for a long time. You know, like this. I love this person. I want to marry them.
Yeah.
And that and then that just suddenly gets brought up. Like, okay, that's a way tougher situation. But I'm like,
Yeah.
first date. You know, I first
Yeah.
learned. Like, I really don't know
True.
this person. And I'm like, I have to pick between you, someone I don't know, and the cat that I've had for 10 years.
It would definitely be a good
Yeah.
first date question.
Yeah.
it actually
yeah,
could be,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like how you said, it has to be God and everything. Like, I could just picture somebody going up to the altar and asking for prayer and be like, I just really need a miracle in my life.
Deliver me from
Please
this
deliver
allergy.
Me from these allergies. It's ruining my relationship.
I need a miracle.
Wow.
That would be if I was ever ministering, somebody came up to me and they're like, this is what I need. I'd be like,
I prepared
I would
you.
laugh.
I prepared
Yeah,
you by
you
asking
did.
this question. So you would
I
have
don't even know what to
sympathy.
do.
yeah, it depends on what the animal is. Can I see a picture?
Is it cute
Yeah.
or
How old is the animal? How long
Yeah,
does it
yeah,
have to
yeah.
how
live?
much more time does he have?
Let's be real. Like, what's going on here?
Let's ask the hard question.
How long have you been single? Because this is also a factor.
I think I'll go to somebody else for prayer.
I'll skip the prayer today.
I'll be okay.
You're fine.
You get a Yelp
Here's
review
some
later.
Benadryl. She just has Benadryl in her pocket. Here you go. I've come prepared.
That is such a
Wow.
good question. I love it. Okay.
See, I was nervous about asking that question. I'm glad I asked that
Yeah.
question. Thank you.
Like, it was legit. It's a legit question.
It
Yeah.
is.
Okay, let me see. What is the next thing on this thing? Okay. So, all right. That was better than I thought that would be. All right. So the reason why I wanted to have Maverick and Juliana here with us is because, why? No, I'm kidding. They're young. How old are you guys?
I'm 23,
23?
21.
21. Okay. And so they've been dating since you guys were
16 and 14.
16 and 14.
Yeah.
That's
Mm.
crazy. I was talking with Yessie and I was like, yeah, we're going to interview them. And she's like, yeah, ask Maverick, how come you didn't propose right away? Like when they were 17, right away. I was like, that's so
Right?
freaking funny. Right?
Right?
I should have had my life together
Yeah.
at 16.
And
wrong
that's what I'm
proposed.
saying. Yeah.
I should have had a career already.
Have a
It should
house.
have been established, but it's fine.
So funny. Okay, so the reason why they've been dating for so long, right? And they're both Christian, and they've been doing things God's way. And so I've been seeing, I think we can all say this, we've seen the way that God has like worked in their life. And just even the compatibility that we see, and I'm not even that close to you guys, but being able to see it from like an outsider's perspective, how much more when we get into the actual story, right? So I wanted to have you guys here so that you guys can we can pick your brain and ask questions, especially for like your guys' generation. Are you guys considered Gen Z or
Yeah.
millennials? Yeah.
No, Gen Z.
Gen
I
Z.
think
Gen Z.
like Eliza's my millennial.
Yeah. Are you Gen Z? Cat's
Okay.
still here in the
I
studio.
think
Okay.
Eliza and I are right on the cutoff.
Oh, okay.
No.
Nice.
Anyway, so I just wanted to pick their brain because I think it's something to be admired, especially so young. And I remember I was talking with Eliza years ago. I forgot how this happened. And Eliza's somebody that we've had on the show, and how you were talking smack to her, low key talking smack, but you're just like, when you know, you just know. And so, and Eliza, like, she and I were just like laughing because that's just how you are, like,
Yeah.
and you actually said it earlier, like, when you know, you just know. And so we just wanted to know.
You want to know what I know?
Yeah.
I want to know what you
Why
know.
you know.
How do you know? So, with that being said, I know that we orchestrated a few questions for you guys. So let me see what the first one was that I put. Can you guys share with us how you guys met? I mean, 14 and 16, I think.
Yeah.
Not at the club.
Definitely not at the club. It was in school.
Okay.
Obviously me and Jules were homeschooled, through Gorman. And it was recently when we moved to a bigger facility. So you were in Gorman since you were in
In 8th grade.
8th grade. And I think I believe I was in Gorman since 7th grade.
So
Um,
homeschoolers, it's possible.
It is
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
It is possible.
Yeah.
We're living
Living
the dream. God
We're
can do
living
it.
proof. So yeah, but obviously we were, because of our 2-year age difference, we were never in the same class or nothing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until we moved to a new facility, which was like a much bigger, kind of like normal, I would say normal school.
Yeah.
Had like a gym and everything.
Whoa.
Yeah.
We didn't have a gym before.
We
We didn't even have a
we
lunchroom.
We started from nothing.
Oh my
in
god!
Gorman.
Yeah.
Look
That
at
charter
that.
school life, man.
Yeah.
I had the same issue.
Right?
Wow.
Um,
At our school, we had like a lockdown gym.
Oh,
I'm just
fun.
kidding.
Sounds like fun times.
Yeah.
Where
did you go to
school?
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Alright.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So yeah, obviously I was it was the beginning of my junior year.
Mm.
And she was a freshman in high school. So we were never in any same classes.
Mm-mm.
So it wasn't until the beginning of my junior year where obviously now that she was in high school, we were like kind of more like intermingled.
Mm.
Because back then like she knew of me, but
Oh,
I didn't know
okay,
of
girls.
her.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah,
was
so she
manifesting
was,
that.
yeah, she was. I don't know what she was doing,
How?
but
How? How are you manifesting? I'm sorry.
yeah,
Right?
Keep going, Mav. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I don't,
We'll talk
so,
after.
Yeah,
Talk
so she knew of me before, but I never knew her. So it wasn't until the junior year, obviously, when we started to see each other, and then we did begin to meet through what's the word? Friends. It was like
Friends.
yeah, we
Common
had like
friends.
common friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just like so I can still like vividly remember like the first time like I like actually like locked eyes with her.
Aw.
I was like standing by a tree like talking with a group of friends. And I just seen her walking and like she was wearing like a pink shirt with like
Aw.
she had like blue jeans.
Yeah.
I'm sure you had like Vans on. And I just remember like locking eyes and like she just like walked and like smiled and like then we kind of just like looked away. It was obviously like back
It
like
was very, very like high school.
Did
you know.
time slow down?
It
yeah
did.
like
It did.
Wow.
slow
I forgot who
motion.
was talking next to me.
Yeah.
Forgot everybody's names.
Were you wearing Vans?
I was.
Wow.
That was my
Yeah.
everyday high school fit. My
Vans.
sweater, my jeans, and my Vans.
Wow. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember ever since then, like, then I talked to her because she had a friend that I was close to. So, like, we kind of used him. Like, he's kind of the one that set us all up.
Do you
Yeah.
still talk to him?
No,
No.
unfortunately.
He moved out of state.
Yeah.
But shout out to him.
Yeah.
Um,
Shout out to Miles.
right? Thanks to him.
Hopefully
So
he
through
hears this.
through that, obviously, like, I started asking, like, yo, like, who is that? Like I want to talk to her. Like, I want to
Yeah.
get to know her. So he was out, like, honestly helped us out a lot. Like,
Yeah.
he was like the biggest like hype man and
Aw.
wingman.
Yeah.
So he did like everything in his power to try to like get us to talk to each other.
Aw,
He would like
sweet.
join us in like at the same get us in the same group at the same time.
Aw.
Yeah.
So Maverick is no, not Maverick. That guy, he's equated to the friends that let down the man through the roof.
Yes.
That is
Yeah. That's
That was him.
Yeah,
In
that's
biblical
it.
terms.
Yeah, be that man.
He was manifested right there.
Right?
I can't.
So yeah, through that, then we started like to slowly talk to each other. Obviously, we were
Yeah.
shy, you know. I was always a quiet person. She was.
Yeah.
You were a little quiet.
Yeah.
But obviously, like when you're like have a crush on someone, you get all shy. And
Yeah.
So we wouldn't really talk. Like we would sit next to each other, but it would be like awkward.
Aw.
But we kind of like started to talk. But it wasn't through like I wouldn't say like how long would it be until we started like actually talking.
I think for a long time we would like sit next to each other like this, but we would like literally not talk. Like it would just be
Really?
like so awkward. But then we would go home and text each other, and we're like
Aw.
talking like all the
Yeah.
time, like stay up, of course, stay up
How
late talking.
cute.
Yeah, it was very
It was
like
very awkward.
awkward in person.
would
Okay, so in the first episode, we talked about awkwardness and getting to know somebody and how you have to sit with the awkwardness. Like
Yeah.
you have to be okay to go through that because anytime you're starting something new, it's gonna be awkward.
Yeah,
So
get nervous. Yeah.
thank you guys
Definitely.
for solidifying
Yeah, it was
that.
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah,
it was definitely.
yeah.
And like you said, like we would text like all day
Yeah.
and like stay up late and text, but
Literally,
Like,
as soon as we left school, like, okay, I'm in the car, like, okay, like texting right away. But
Aw.
in person, it was just
Like, we
literally
didn't
just
know each
sitting
other.
there. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
so yeah, we just progressed through there, and like obviously little like time went by, and like we did start to like talk to each other
In person.
in person,
Wow.
in person more.
Yeah.
And then we just like really found that we had a lot of like common traits, like a lot of common stuff that we liked. We kind of had like similar backgrounds growing up.
Yeah.
We were very family oriented. She had a big family. I had a big family. We kind of liked the same music. So yeah, then we started like, I don't know like how it went down, but like we just started like just talking and like getting to know each other more.
Mhm.
And I just remember like going through those phases, like asking like everything you like what do you like?
What's your favorite color?
Yeah, literally, it was just like that. Like, what's your favorite color?
Yeah.
What's your favorite, flower? Your favorite artist?
We would send each other like top 3 of everything, like top 3 flowers, top 3 favorite artists, top 3 songs, like top 3 everything. It was like
Like your
3
food
was
that
our
you like.
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
cute.
so we just found
Write
like
that down. Write that down.
yeah. So honestly, we had a lot in common. So like that, we kind of just stuck through that. And like
Yeah.
we just saw like, oh, like this might work, you know?
Mm. Okay. What about your experience, Jules, through this?
Yeah.
Well, clearly, like we said, I saw him, me and my best friend, like we saw him at the old campus, and we were just like, oh my gosh, like he's so cute, you know, just little girls having a crush. But we didn't know, we didn't know any of the same people. So I remember like she literally took a picture of me, or sorry, a picture of him like on his way to class, and she's like, "Oh, I found Maverick for you."
Oh
I
my
don't know
God.
how. I do not remember how we found out his name, but yeah. So then from there, then it was funny because actually Daniel, his name was Daniel.
Okay.
He
Dang,
little
Daniel.
did he, yeah. No, literally, and his thing was white bands too. Like,
Yeah.
his name was
Honestly, at
Daniel
the time, like
Smiles.
that's when that video
It
came
just
out.
came out,
So
yeah.
everyone would tell that to him.
I needed
Yeah.
a Daniel in my life.
Yeah, so Daniel, again, shout out to Daniel. He would like, little did Maverick know, but like he would tell me what he was doing. Like he's like, oh, he has this class at this time. Like you need to be here at
Oh
this
my
time.
god!
He would like take pictures of Maverick for me. I'm like, dude, like I was not asking for this, but
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, whatever.
They're running a full like FBI investigation.
She
on
wasn't
me.
asking him to
Found
stop
out where he
either.
lived. Exactly. I didn't ask for it, but I didn't tell him to stop.
She didn't deny it either.
The Lord blesses you, and you just gotta take
Yeah,
it.
Exactly. What am I? I'm not going to deny a blessing.
Exactly.
So. So yeah, so then we Daniel introduced us after school one day, and we were talking, and I remember like when I first texted him, we didn't even get numbers, we exchanged like Snapchat and like
wow.
social
Yeah.
medias. And so
Remember those
I remember I
days.
texted him, right? I texted him and I was just like, hey, and he didn't respond for hours. So I was like, okay, like I'm done with this guy. Like
She's telling a
already,
different story now.
yeah. Already, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, of course, he was my crush since 8th grade. And then, yeah, it was like so true. Literally, like we locked eyes. I remember that day so specifically too. He was like in his bandana stage. So he wore like this pink bandana. I was like, looking back now, I was like, interesting choice.
Yeah.
But that's what drew me in.
Yeah.
It
So
was in back then.
Yeah, I remember.
So I remember that day we locked eyes and then we got Snapchats, whatever. So then he didn't respond for like a good like 4 hours. It was a long time.
And you texted me first.
I texted him first
Yeah.
also. So even for me to text him first, I was just like, okay, so I'm
Yeah.
texting you first and,
And
you're
you're
not
gonna-
even going to respond to me.
What the heck?
Yeah, blocked.
It was
We're
like taking a
done.
nap.
Yeah, he was. He was literally
Yeah,
taking
because that's
a
when I
nap.
when I would play basketball. So
He
it
was
was
in
after school. So
basketball.
I knocked out. I think I knocked out for like 4 hours.
Yeah,
So
he
like I
was
didn't
out.
wake up.
Dang.
He was out cold. Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah. So then he woke up and then yeah, from there we started talking and like I said, like we would ask everything in 3. So like give me a top 3 favorite this, favorite that. And yeah, and the rest is history. So then we were just talking and eventually he asked me to be his girlfriend and that's where we are now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So with that, all right. So you guys met, texted, and all these things. So just because of my own curiosity, like how was it when you like told your parents? Because you guys were so young. So
Yeah.
how was that? Like when your parents got involved in this?
So I think actually my mom found out first because technically both of us weren't allowed to date. And so we
We
didn't.
were still young.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like
I mean,
14,
16.
16, we were babies.
Yeah, for sure.
So my mom found out, I believe, like in January. So at the time I was still like, it was still very fresh. But I remember like, I remember this so vividly. Like she sat me down on the bed and she took my phone for like a whole day. And so I was like heartbroken. I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't talk to him. I'm never going to talk to him again. I'm never going to see him at school. Because even being homeschooled, you only see him like twice
it
a
was
week.
twice a
Yeah.
week that we would see each other.
Yeah, so it was literally nothing. So I was like, I can't tell him. And I'm pretty sure we were still on winter break. So I was like, I can't even tell him that I
Oh
can't
my
talk to him. Like I was stressed. So I remember she sat me down literally the second day. And she was just like, you know, like, I know the daughter that I raised and I trust you. So if this is something that you want to do, then that's what you're going to do. But she's like, I'm not going to hold this back from you because I really feel like this is something that you have to experience for yourself,
Oh.
you know? So, and even hearing that, like, I was just like, okay, like this, not expecting it, you know?
Yeah.
Like I've always been told like that I'm more mature for my age. So I think to actually like hear that from my mom was like, okay, like you are trusting me with this, like this is big, you know?
Yeah.
So then after that, we continued talking and his parents still didn't know, but my mom knew and my granny, I'm sure you guys met my granny. She knew about it the entire time. So she she would take me to his games so I could see his games.
Oh my gosh.
She was a little secret angel.
She a real one.
Shout out to Granny.
Shout out to Granny.
So you just guys had like just help through this whole process.
Yeah.
That's what we're missing, Melissa.
Yeah.
You're missing
takes a village.
Yeah.
It does. It takes a village.
Let's go find Daniel.
Daniel, hit us up, okay?
Right?
He's tired, he's tired of this job. Yeah. Let's go hit up
Actually, I
Granny.
think I prefer the Granny. I think
Right.
that-
Yeah. Let's hit up Granny.
They're a little bit
Right.
more bold.
Yeah, so she knew about it the whole time, and then after that, then it was, you know, my brothers found out. My brothers already knew that I liked him, and they like they played basketball with him like a few times, so they were just like whatever, they didn't really care. But yeah, and then I remember after my mom found out, then I told Indy, and Indy, he's my pastor now, but at the time he wasn't my pastor yet. So even that was like big for me because he's like was like one of the biggest father figures in my life. So when I told him, he was just like, you know, giving me that godly counsel and everything. And so I was just like, okay, like this is happening. Like we're committed now. You're not going anywhere. I told Indy, I told my mom,
like
Granny
everyone knows.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere.
All of Palmdale knew.
All of
Yeah.
Palmdale.
You
At
will
that
be
point-
hunted
At that point, yeah.
We will find
by
you.
Granny.
Yeah.
Granny and Daniel.
Get you over to your kings.
I feel like when this episode airs, like Granny's gonna text Daniel and be like, "We did it."
We did it.
Right?
I feel so accomplished.
Yeah, for real. What about for you, Mavi?
Obviously, like she said, like our parents didn't know. Like we were
Yeah.
young, and like obviously at the time, like we were like young and dumb, you know.
Yeah.
So we never like told them, and I don't remember how they found out, but my parents specific, but it was more like they just kind of like saw. I think they saw like the message, and obviously like back then, like it was like a bunch of emojis next to their name, a bunch of hearts. So obviously they found out, and like my dad and like my mom always told me like obviously like dating is not like something you should take lightly.
Yeah.
And I just always remember my dad just telling me like obviously like you date with the purpose, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously like his thing was like obviously like when you're dating, like it's not like cheap, like, you know, you need to be like financially like set and like ready to like do it. And at the time, like obviously I didn't want to hear it at the time because like you're a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Like,
in
you're
love, Dad.
Yeah, like I'm in love. Like you just think like everyone's against you. But obviously looking back at like now that we're older, like you see like where they're coming from.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I think it was like just like they probably took my phone away for like I don't know if they ever took it away.
I think it was like the same thing, like a
Yeah,
day.
just like a talk.
Mm.
Yeah, they just had like a real talk, like, and kind of like obviously if like you're gonna do it, like do it with the right intentions.
Yeah.
It was never like I was never taught like just to date, just to, you know, date and have
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was that, and then I think ever since then, like then we just started like slowly introducing each other to the families. Obviously once they knew, then like all my aunts started to find out.
Everybody in the group chat knew.
Yeah, everyone in the family group chat
Yeah.
found out. And just little by little, we started like intermingling within the families. So yeah, that was.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I think I love to hear it too because obviously again because you guys are so young to hear it because there is like that family dynamic and all that. Honestly, in any level of your life, there is that family dynamic. But to hear just the fact that, you know, yeah, the way that they found out obviously was like,
Wasn't the right way.
Wasn't
Yeah.
the right way. But I think it just made it, I'm sure the moment that your family found out and it was accepted, like your relationship grew that much more, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
now it was just like, now there was a community behind you, like keeping tabs on you and not in a controlling way, but like a protective kind of way.
Definitely like a burden like lifted off of your shoulders.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
you're not like in secret.
Looking over
or,
a shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure it was kind of
Hiding
cute
it.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Meet me at the south side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me too, because like I have a bunch of little cousins, so like even for them to see me like in that light, it was like, I don't want you to see this. Like you see me being affectionate towards somebody else, and
Yeah.
you calling somebody else babe. Like even babe, I was like, yeah, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
Like I
They're
I
like,
just didn't want to see them I didn't want them to see me like that. So
Yeah.
even that.
But I think
was
that's really
big.
encouraging too, because I like what you said of, at the time it felt really controlling when your parents like had the talk with you and were, putting more serious terms on it. And but like for our listeners, that's really encouraging because I also, like you're right. Like when you start dating as a teenager, that's all you see.
Yeah.
That's all you
Yeah.
see is this person. And to look at the more serious side of it, you're like, I'm 16. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like as we started the episode, or I'm not sure if we recorded that part where Maverick was just saying like, oh, I should have been able to support her at that age. Should have been in the military by then. Like,
Should have had a 3-bedroom
you know
house.
what I mean? And that's what it feels like though
Two
when you
parents.
have that conversation with your parents. Like
Yeah.
your parents sit you down for that serious conversation. You're
Yeah.
like, I'm 14 years old.
Yeah,
like
I'm not thinking
chill.
of
You know
that
what I
stuff,
mean?
yeah.
But looking back on it, you're like, there was a real love there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And because they forced a perspective of taking it seriously, your relationship worked.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you allowed your family to come behind you and support you in that, as opposed to, what a very common response is like, I love her,
Yeah.
and like just like running away and trying to make it work on your own and your own, immaturity. Like I like that. And I'm sure it wasn't easy at the time. And like,
Yeah.
again, that teenage mindset, you're like, "Ugh, everyone's just against
Everyone
me."
hates
Yeah.
us.
But
Yeah.
there's a maturing that
Nobody
takes
wants me to be
place.
Us
Yeah.
against the world, baby.
Right?
Exactly.
Me and you.
Exactly. So it's like there's a maturing that takes place.
Yeah.
And once you guys entered the family group chat, like it was
It's
real.
legit. Yeah,
It
it's
was
legit.
legit.
There's no
you
going
know?
back.
There's no going back.
The
Yeah.
uncles know there's no going back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you will be hunted at that point.
Yeah.
So
You're
Oh,
stuck.
for real.
but I really do. I think that's really encouraging to like
Yeah.
our teenage listeners of like, I know it's like
Yeah.
people are expecting you to take something so seriously when you're so young, but look how well it worked for them. And
Yeah.
they allowed their families to support them and to help them, and they recognized, no, they just love me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just just recognize the people that love you. Find that granny.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Can she
I
be our
agree. I
granny?
agree.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
No, yeah, I agree.
Tell your pastors and tell the people around your leadership and allow them to love you and support you through that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think in return,
Or go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think in return too, like just having that support of your family too, like knowing that, I think, like speaking personally, I'm sure for him as well, like knowing that our parents were backing us on that, and it wasn't like, oh, you have to break up with him. Like, no, like now I know that I have your support. It's like, okay, cool. Like I feel comfortable with, like, comfortable going to you with something, like if there was an issue or
Yeah.
if, I'm not sure of something, like I feel comfortable going to you now, rather
Yeah.
than her being so, like, I know you don't, if I know she didn't like him, I know she didn't support the relationship, I'm not going to go to her.
Right.
So
Yeah.
even just having that, I feel like that was a blessing within itself, because it's like, okay, now and I can talk to you about this
Yeah.
rather than keeping it to myself. And
Right.
that's how a lot of things go wrong, I feel like.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
I completely agree with that.
I definitely like what Shekinah said. Like, definitely, like, obviously the way we did it, obviously we can go back in time, we would change it.
Yeah.
But definitely, like, whatever, like that saying, like, whatever, like, it'll come to light.
Yeah.
And obviously for us, it came to light, and, like, we had to learn the hard way. So yeah, definitely my advice, like, to obviously like young listeners, like, yeah, at the time you're gonna, like, you might hate your parents, or you might not like not like them.
yeah.
But there is truth to what they're saying. Like, they have lived many more years than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
They went through the same stuff as we did,
Yeah.
So definitely I take the advice and definitely get like a family, like not like, I want to say family, but definitely get like a community behind
for
you.
sure.
Mhm. Definitely.
Because trying to do it on our own, like, trust me, like you won't get far.
Yeah.
It
and
stays
you'll
that emoji text.
Yeah. Says that emoji text. Yeah,
and
for
you'll
sure.
you'll fail constantly
Stays
on
in
your
Snapchat.
own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it stays in Snapchat. If
We
you want to
do.
go
Yeah.
outside of Snapchat.
We don't want to be in Snapchat. No.
No.
No, but honestly, I think that's even a principle that can be taken for any age, right? Like
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you have a community, and it doesn't always have to be family, because I understand like
Yeah.
not many people have that kind of like dynamic with their family. But you have to, especially if it's people that you've like done life with, and all of a sudden a new person comes into your life, and that person that you trusted before is like, hey, like, this or that, they're telling you to be careful, whatever, and all of a sudden like you're not wanting to trust that. Like maybe there's like some introspection that needs to be given with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so good. But now what I want to talk to you about is because you recently got engaged.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we'll get to the engagement story, but before that, I want to talk about like the leading up to the proposal, because I think we've talked about the story of like Andre and Yessie, right? How to me it's one of my favorite stories, because like the way that once Andre took the faith step, right? And it's like, okay, I'm going to propose. That's where everything started like falling into place for their relationship furthermore. And so I want to hear about you guys, right?
Yeah.
Like how things started falling into place for you. And so I want to hear the different perspectives as well. So last time I started with Mavi, so we're going to start with Jules. Like how was that for you in the months leading up to the proposal?
Yeah. So
Lots of fasting?
lots of
Crying out to
fasting.
the Lord?
Actually, truly, lots of fasting, lots of praying. I think being together so young, I think you almost have this like expectation over your relationship. Like I would tell people, oh, we've been together for 6 years, blah blah blah, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's a long time. Like, yes, it is a long time, but we were together when we were 14 and 16.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, like I know we joked about it, but I wasn't. I think like I was expecting him to like be on it. Like, okay, we
Yeah.
don't need to be together long. But also it's like, no, we weren't even really established, you know? So I think leading up to that, it was a lot of me just battling with that. Like even before, like not even just the months before, but just like the years before, having to battle with, okay, when's the right time to get married? When is he going to do it? Like when is too long? Like, should I break up with him? Should I not break up with him? It was a real battle for me. And so I think leading up to it, I think finally I let it go. And I was just like, okay, you know what, God, like I knew Maverick was the one who I was going to be with forever. But I was just like, the timing is yours. The timing's in your hand, God. Like, so I think just that, like, just,
that deep breath though.
I know. I was getting passionate there.
PTSD.
I'm going back there, getting flashbacks. I'm gonna start flinching.
Well,
it was a rough time for me, just personally, not so much even for the relationship. Yes, but specifically, like personally, it was a lot. Just having to think about that, like, okay, when is it time to? Are we gonna break up? Like, are we gonna stay together? But then leading up to like the actual months, like I remember my best friend asking me. She knew the entire time.
Oh.
But I remember she was asking me like, "Are you ready to get married?" And I was just like, honestly, like a couple months ago, I probably would have told you no. But I was just like, now, like I'm so okay, like I'm so content just being with whatever timing God has for us that it's like, yeah, like I am, you know. Obviously, there's stuff that I think we can work on. You can never stop growing, right? Yeah. So I think that was something that I always would think about, but just like in terms of like the timing and everything like that, like I was like, okay, like we're good, like we can do this whenever is in God's hands. You know, it's in God's hands. So I think it was cool just to see that, like when I finally gave it to God, like, okay, you know what, like the timing's in your hands, and it was like, then it happened. It was just like I was definitely not expecting it at all.
I love that.
So yeah.
But I think that that's so transparent, right? Because I think it wasn't just like wrestling with the marriage thing, but it's also trusting God, right?
Yeah.
Because it's also trusting what God is doing in your life and trusting His timing and trusting that He has both of your hearts in His interest.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm sure that it's caused you to trust in God even much more so, right?
Yeah.
Where it's not just looking at Him in the lens and the scope of the engagement. Because that lesson that you learned there is something that I'm sure it's going to be applied once you guys are in the marriage,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I think it's beautiful because ultimately it's like the three of you guys, right? You, God, and you.
You, God, and you.
If you guys are watching this, you know I like that both of them. Okay? And so that's always going to be the thing because I've constantly heard, right, like in marriages how when maybe they're not agreeing, the couples are at odds, or the woman is having trouble submitting, or vice versa, or not that the man submits to the wife, but like having trust that God is working things out. Like there comes a point always where you have to go to God first, right?
Yes.
And I mean it really is all the time, but because there's gonna come times where your marriage is facing a little bit of trouble, right? Like maybe in a decision and moving forward, whatever, can be as basic as, are you gonna move jobs, or as profound as, when is it time to have a baby? I don't know. But even in that, like God is always going to be at the center. So the fact that you learn that lesson there, I'm sure the Lord is going to be able to expand and build on that, So it's beautiful, honestly. Mavi?
Obviously we were together for so long. So yeah, like obviously we were joking about it earlier, but like, yeah, like, and we always had like that, like constant like battle, like, we've been together for like 7, well, at the time it was 6 years. He's like, when are we gonna get married? And I'll be like, not like to like say in a bad way, but I was like, we've been together for since high school. Like, not that those years didn't count, but like we were obviously young and like we were not in that stage of life. So we did have that constant battle of like, when's, like she would always ask me like, when are you gonna marry? not like in a toxic way, but
Yeah.
like when
Well.
when's the right
Sometimes.
sometimes yeah, but no.
Very kind of you.
Right?
But we know we're girls. We know.
Right?
Yeah, so we did have that constant battle in our relationship where it was just like, we've been together for 6 years. Like, when's the right time? Like,
Mhm.
if it gets to 10 years and like we're still not married, like then we're gonna have a prom.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
We're
we
going
did
to our
have
high school reunion.
Yeah, that would have been bad. But we did have that prom. And obviously, like at the time we were still young, so I was like, obviously I went through college when we were together, so I was like, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
And obviously like post like college, like what's gonna happen after that. So we were just always like constantly like talking about that, like she would always ask me like when's because I would always say like when the time's right, like then I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I obviously like she would like want to know like, well, what does it
What
what
does
does that look
look
Yeah.
like? Like,
Yeah,
what
what
can
is-
I do for this?
That's
What
so vague that I was
Yeah.
like, no, I need something more specific.
Yeah, so I was always like, what is the right time to look like? And like, I didn't really like, I never like had like a date answer like
Yeah.
this time or, because if you wait for everything to line up perfectly, like I mean, most people will never get married. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
so it came to a point where I kind of had to like step out in faith and like, I can't wait to have like the max job offer,
Mhm.
the biggest house, the biggest cars. So I kind of had to learn like from myself, like you can't wait for everything to line up perfectly
Yeah.
just so everything looks right. So for me, that was the biggest thing I had to learn, like leading up to, and obviously not that there was tension, but there was like obviously like I needed like the time. I came to a point where like in my heart I felt that the time was right.
Hmm.
And obviously we were planning a trip with my sister, with my little sister, for her soccer trip to Spain, and like when we first talked about the trip, I was like, that would be like a cool trip to go to, but like I never thought like, well, maybe I can propose like in Spain, but it wasn't until like I was just really like in prayer a lot, and then it just like came to me like one night, I was on my lunch break, and then I was just like really just sitting there like this would be like iconic like to
Yeah, for sure.
to propose in Spain, like I would never have the chance to do this again. And in my heart I felt like, right now is like the right time.
Mhm.
So obviously with that, like spoke, obviously I prayed to God first, and then once I felt like peace in my heart,
Mhm.
I spoke to my parents, and I was like, obviously we've been together for a while, like I have like this idea like to propose in Spain, like what do you guys think? And like they were like, obviously like when you hear that, like as a parent, like you're shocked, like
Yeah.
your kid's getting married.
Yeah.
So they were shocked at first, but never in like a negative way. Obviously, they were shocked, but they supported the whole way. And then once my sisters found out, like Eliza was more emotional than like
Yeah.
anyone.
Yeah.
And then my little sister, she never believed me. She was like, "You're lying. Like you're not gonna do that."
Aw. By the way, you guys have met him. I know we already said
Yeah.
Eliza was on
Yeah.
the show, but Vicky was also on the show with Eliza.
Yeah. So they were emotional, obviously. But in my heart, I knew like this was like the right time, and it came to the point where I had to step out and like trust God. Like, her pastor actually, like, he said something. He was like, kind of like along the lines like, you can't like wait for, like basically what I said, like, you can't wait for it to line up. It's like you have to like step out and like trust God that He'll like lay your steps ahead of you.
Yeah.
And when he told me that, I was like, man, like that really like stuck with me. And like obviously, like if in my natural response I could have been like, well, like I'm not ready, like we don't have a house, we don't have a higher paying job. But like obviously with that, with what he said, like I was like, you know what, like I had to trust God and like step out and like
Yeah.
he like put my trust in Him.
Yeah.
And like that was like the best thing I could have ever done.
Yeah, absolutely. And that also goes back to a lesson that you're always going to be learning in
Yeah.
marriage, right? Like trusting him with the next thing, because it's not
Yeah.
always going to line up
Line
right
up how you
away.
think, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, once again, I think it's beautiful because I feel like in the marriages that I've witnessed, right, I think that's always the number one lesson that takes place is trusting God with timing and trusting God with the way that the plan is going to unravel.
Yeah.
And so I remember when the trip was being planned and I found out, I went to Sue and I was like, is Mavi proposing? And she was like, shh.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like so excited, right? So when you decided to do that, like tell us about the proposal, like the actual proposal, because every girl swoons over that, right?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know that.
You proposed.
So obviously we had took the trip to Madrid and
Shout out to Vicky.
Yeah, so thankful for Vicky's soccer
Yes,
skills that got
For
us there.
sure.
So obviously we took the trip. It was a week trip in Madrid. So obviously the whole time we were going to Madrid for a week, and then we were gonna fly to Ibiza, which is an island like off kind of like Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I was gonna do it. Was in Ibiza. So obviously the week in Madrid, like I knew like in a couple of days like I'm gonna propose to her. So like the whole trip, like I think like I wasn't really nervous the whole trip, but like kind of once the Madrid trip finished and like we got to Ibiza, I was like, then it settled in. Like I started getting nervous.
Oh
And
my
I'm like I'm gonna be proposing soon. Like obviously proposing in another country, like I didn't have a chance to like scope out the area.
Yeah.
So like I'm on Instagram like all night, like trying to find the spot, like
Oh my goodness.
like where do I like? I was literally searching up like best places to propose, like because I didn't know like it was foreign to me. I was like
Yeah.
I can't send someone
I mean,
over there to
you've
look.
never proposed before.
Yeah.
So it's like,
And I'm in a
Thank
whole
God I
different
never went to
country.
yeah. Yeah, for real.
So it was definitely like not like a lot of stress, but it was like a good like stress. Like obviously like just trying to like make sure everything was right, but obviously like never being over there, it was like a little stressful.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, then the leading up to it, it was actually funny because the day of the proposal, we were at the beach, and like she kind of just asked me like, "Oh, like when are you gonna propose?" Like I don't think you had asked it in a while,
Yeah, it was a long time.
and like she kind of asked
Jules,
me,
you were getting in the way of
I
your own
know.
proposal.
I was, and I didn't even know. I didn't even
and then
know.
what did I tell you?
He was like, oh yeah, probably like 2
Oh, yeah.
years.
yeah, she asked me like, when are you gonna propose? I was like, honestly, probably like
Dude,
in
you're
2
lucky she
years.
didn't like get up and leave at that point, right?
Yes.
And I believed him because I was
Yeah.
like, I like
No,
he
she-
was
yeah,
talking
sh-
about the job and everything. So I was just like, I trust like you're still, we're still
Yeah.
working the jobs.
Yeah.
At the time, I wasn't working either.
Mhm.
So I was just like, I trust, like I really could see it happening in 2 years, but like, of course, I don't want to hear that.
Mhm, yeah.
But, like I told her like in 2 years, and like she actually like got mad and
I
like
did.
she kind of like wasn't talking to me for a while. So
I
I
would
was
have
like,
gotten hurt. I would have been hurt.
so she was a little. I knew
I
she was
was.
a little hurt because like she wasn't talking to me, and like obviously we're at the beach, like I'm trying to like enjoy the time, have fun.
Yeah.
So I was like, crap, like I pissed her off. So like now like I was like trying to like make it
Like
like
little
yeah, I was like
things.
trying to like tell her funny jokes or like tell her
He
like how
was.
nice the water is and
Yeah.
like
Aw.
And
So
then
I-
he would like talk about our future a little bit too, like what dogs we want, like
Yeah.
just little.
I was
things
like, I need to
like
fix
that.
this because I need her like in a good mood
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
proposal.
All right, fine.
So yeah, then like everything was fine. So then we started. We went back to everyone got ready, and then I told her we were gonna have dinner reservations at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Like on the coast. But we actually like we're going to like it was like a big rock, and like in the view was like another big rock. That was
yeah.
like I don't know if you guys seen the picture, but
Yeah.
there's like that big rock you see there. So I told her like we're all like. There was like a random house. I was like, yeah, that's the restaurant.
Oh
I was like,
my
but I was
God.
like, we're gonna just take pictures because it was sunset time.
Yeah.
Aw.
So
And you love the sky.
And even that he
Aw.
knows, like, so again, I wasn't questioning anything because I was
Yeah.
like, I love the sunset, so yeah, we're taking pictures.
Yeah.
Duh, that was without a question.
Yeah.
So we were getting ready, and then like obviously we had to make it there. Like I wanted to make it at golden hour.
Okay.
So like we were running a little late, so I'm like speeding.
Whose fault was
was-
it? Whose fault was it?
It was mine, actually.
Yeah.
I was the last one to get ready. Yeah.
And like
Oh my god.
I don't want to like rush her because if you rush a girl, like they get mad.
Pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna just stick quiet.
Lose.
But at the same time, so I had saw him make the dinner reservation, and the reservation wasn't until like 8:30 because it didn't get late until like
Yeah.
dark.
So
until
I made
late
a
there.
reservation for after the proposal somewhere else, like somewhere.
So
not
I knew
there.
he had the reservation for later in the day. By the time we were leaving, it was like 5, I believe. So I was like, why are we leaving so early?
Yeah.
Like, there's no need to rush. Of course. So I was
Yeah.
like, I'm fine. Like,
Yeah,
there's no
we're
need to rush
chilling,
right
yeah.
now.
So we're
Then
like,
he was like, oh, yeah, we're leaving. So then I felt bad because everybody was ready. I was like, all right, I guess we're leaving.
and then we're walking out, and then my dad. So I had put my
Oh, yeah.
dad in charge the whole trip to guard the ring, like
Okay.
keep the ring on you, because like obviously like if I put it in my bag, like she might see
Right.
it.
Yeah.
So he was in charge of the ring the whole trip, and then we're walking out to the truck because we're already in a rush. So we're walking out. He's like, I guess my mom whispered to him like, "Do you have the ring?" And he's like, "Oh, like I don't have it."
Oh.
So obviously,
Yeah,
God.
run upstairs.
So
He was
he's like-
oh, I forgot my wallet.
he's like, "I forgot my wallet." I was like, "How do you forget your wallet?" And even I didn't know like he was talking about the ring. I was like, "How do you forget your wallet?" But
You're clowning on him. Let's just go,
Literally.
Dad. You're
Yeah.
not even
Fine.
paying.
but
I'll pay.
obviously,
Just come on.
but luckily like after like he told me like when he said that
Yeah.
like he was actually talking about the ring.
Oh my
I was like
god.
I would have been embarrassing if
clowning on
you.
him.
Yeah.
So
So like
lucky-
nobody would talk to Henry, and I had no clue why.
Everyone's mad at my dad and she doesn't know why.
I have no clue why.
Dude. Oh
But
my God.
yeah, so then we started like kind of like it was like kind of like sunset hour, and like obviously golden hour is like a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Like, so we're like rushing. It was like a 30-minute drive,
It was.
like in the
And
canyons.
he was, we were in like the big sprinter vans, and so he's like
Oh
speeding through the
my
canyons. I was like,
He's like, why
do
are
you
you
really
in
want to
the
see the sunset? This is
And
important.
then the whole time, like my mom's like trying to get in contact with her mom.
My mom.
'Cause
And
she
Sue
wanted
was
to-
sitting right next to me, and I wasn't nosy, so I wasn't
Yeah.
like looking over at her
Oh
phone.
my
Because
So
she wanted to
was texting
FaceTime
my
her.
mom the entire time. Like her brightness was all the way down. I had no clue.
So yeah, so
Zero clue.
she was
Minding
just
your
trying to get in
business.
Yeah.
contact, and then her mom wasn't responding. So like, my mom was stressed out, but obviously she couldn't say anything because Jules
Yeah.
is right there.
Yeah.
So she's like, all that's going on. Like, I'm just trying to worry. I'm not just worried about getting to sunset hours.
Oh my
'Cause obviously, like, the
gosh, that's
pictures
so
are nice.
chaotic.
So it was a little stressful getting there.
She's just like,
I know. I was having a great time. I have like a couple pictures of like the youth.
I love
I was
it.
like, wow, this is stunning.
And just the whole time, like obviously leading up to like, I had like the biggest knot in my stomach. Like
sure, yeah.
I'm just so like you're so like nothing. You can never do anything to prepare for that.
Mm.
So like I was just nervous the whole time, and obviously like I had to act normal because like she doesn't know what's going on. So then once we get there, it was like a nice like scenic view. And the spot I had originally wanted to do it at, it was like packed with a bunch of tourists.
Mm.
So I kind of had to like makeshift and like go somewhere else. And that's when I told her like, oh, like let's take sunset pictures. And then I had told her like, oh, like look at the like take one. I'll take one of you. I was like, but look at the ocean so you can have your back turned
Mhm.
towards me. And then that's when I proposed, and the rest is history.
Aw.
But it was a stressful day leading up to it. But
It has to, I feel like if it's a good proposal, it has to be a little bit, just a
Yeah.
little bit
Yeah.
yeah,
chaotic.
not
It's
everything
stressful.
can go according
Yeah.
to plan.
Yeah.
Do you remember what he said, Jules?
Yeah, he was just got down on one knee and he was like, "Will you marry me?" And then
Aw.
like I had on my rings because I wear a lot of rings, and I was like, "I have all my rings on." He's like, "Well, take them off."
It's like take them off; they don't matter.
Yeah. Right, just throw them over.
Yeah, you're good.
You don't need them
These
anymore.
Right?
But yeah, so then obviously he got up and I was just like, I remember hugging him and I was just like, finally.
Aw.
I was like, right?
I
You're
told
like,
him,
here we are.
yeah. So
Aw.
it was a really special moment.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, in a whole other nation, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Only God can orchestrate that. Honestly.
And I love
Yeah.
that like both their stories included. It was when I just surrendered.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
Maverick, you were saying that it's just, I realized everything can't be perfect. I can't wait for everything to be perfect. And you
Yeah.
were just saying that, God came in and was like, can you just chill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Relax.
You let me handle
Yeah,
this.
can you just let me handle this?
Yeah.
And the moment you both were just like, fine, Lord. And he just put it all together. He
Yeah.
took you to Spain.
Literally
like-
perfectly.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
And so it's just a testament of what God can do when we just
Yeah.
give him, when we take our control away from ourselves and
Yeah.
go, okay,
Yeah.
God, whatever you want. It's
Definitely.
just
Yeah.
amazing. I love
Yeah.
that.
I do love that. I think it's honestly really beautiful. And so we love to hear it. But I have to ask this question. Was Sue able to get in contact with your mom?
Yes.
Okay, good.
she was,
even
on,
that,
she was on
like-
FaceTime.
Okay.
Aw.
Even that, like, even the way it worked out, because I always told him, I was like, oh, like, I want it private, just me and you. And so obviously Sue, Vicky, and Henry were there.
Yeah.
And so I remember, like, thinking, like, as he's down there, like, I was like, I felt like it was taking forever. Like, time felt like it was going so slow. But he was, like, asked to marry me, and I was just like, oh my gosh, my mom's gonna be so mad. Like, I cannot say yes. I was so
Oh my
scared.
gosh.
But then I heard my mom in the background
Aw.
on with Sue, like on the phone, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, thank you, God. I was like, okay, yeah,
Aw.
sure.
Can you
Sure.
imagine?
After all that.
Right? After all that stress.
Poor Mavi's like, I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be back.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay, so we talked about how the timing thing, and we talked about like the way that God orchestrates the steps, and you had to take a step of faith.
Yeah.
So after the proposal, were there things that just started falling into place after you guys made that decision?
I would say, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Like, just seeing, like, everything that was happening, like, after the fact, like, that we surrendered everything. Like, I would say, like, for me personally, like, just, like, growing, like, with my relationship with God, like,
Yeah.
learning to, like, if you do surrender, like, like, give it all to Him. Like,
Yeah.
we always hear that, like, give it all to Him. And, like, but, like, obviously, when we're in the moment, we're living life, like, sometimes we stray away from that. And, like, I'm like, God, like, why am I doing that? Like, you literally said, like, give it all to me. And, like,
yeah.
you lift the burden off. So, like, once He did that, like, I felt like the burden was just lifted off. Like, just trying to, like, figure everything out on my own. Like, obviously, it wasn't working.
Mm.
So just doing that, like, I was able to, like, really, like, grow and, like, learn to, like, see God and, like, love God, like, on a different level. Like,
Yeah.
like, wow, God, like, like, it, like, I saw, like, manifest in my life
Mhm.
personally. And obviously in our relationship. And I just definitely, like, on the job too, like, just a lot of doors opened up after. And just, like, again, like, it all, like, everything that would happen, like, it would just tie back to God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, like, wow, like, you see it, like, you always, like, hear about it, and, like, obviously it's great to hear about it in, like, other people's lives, but, like, when you're living it firsthand, like, you're seeing, like, stuff happen, like, you can't explain that. Like obviously God can only do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So like just, and even to this day, like stuff that's just still happens, like God, like, and like that was like the biggest thing. Like now anything I face or anything I come across, like it's always like, well, I'm gonna give it to God first.
Yeah.
And like I'm gonna see God like first in everything I do. Like, and obviously like I see God first, and then like obviously like I let her know like obviously like what's going on.
Yeah.
But like that's like the best thing like I could have ever done.
Yeah.
Is obviously just see God and give everything to Him.
Yeah.
So now I want to ask this: like, how do you guys? How did your relationship, besides obviously this right? Like you grew on your own with the Lord, but now my question is: how did you see that this was the person that God had for you? Like, what confirmed it?
How did you know he was the one?
How did you know? How did you know? How did you know that you know?
Right.
I'll let you answer first, Jules.
You want me to answer
Yeah.
first? I think I feel like it wasn't really something like a specific moment that pinpointed it for me, but I think just like even before we got engaged, I think like I remember I had him over for, well, I guess it was a pretty specific moment, but I remember I had him over for like a family party and he was there with my godson. And I'm sure you guys know, but my
Yes.
godson was like my baby. And so I saw him with my godson and I just like remember getting like literally like a vision. Like I was like, man, like this is going to be like the father to my children, you know? And so I saw him just playing with him. And literally they were just doing like the simplest thing, like just playing in the mirror with each other. And it was just very simple.
Like
But
wholesome.
I think, yeah,
Mhm.
very, very wholesome. So seeing that, I was just like, yeah, like he's going to be the father of my children. And then obviously things later down the road like that cater to that. Yeah, it was just seeing his character develop, and like he said, just seeing how much like him growing as well, like in his walk with the Lord, like that was very heavy to me to see like his growth and just everything that he,
Did it help you see, like, I'm glad that, I mean, obviously you guys were much younger, but did it come to you where you were just like, I'm glad that this is a version of him that I'm marrying, as opposed to like the younger version, right? Not that he was bad in here, but now that he's had like that deeper encounter with the Lord, now you're like, okay, this is why the Lord wanted me to wait,
yeah.
you know?
And honestly, I think that's been more evident after we got engaged. Not that the before
Yeah.
was bad or anything like that, but I think after we got engaged, it was just like, man, like seeing all the things that like we've been going through together, and even stuff that he's been going through on his own, to an extent.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, like this is exactly why like God, this like I should have surrendered it to him a long time ago, I think like even just being engaged, like that was an answered prayer within itself for me personally. And then with him, like just seeing like the opportunities, like he said, that had opened up for his job, and even just like our own devotional lives, like God would reveal himself to us in such like just simple moments, like just the simplest things, and it'd be like, oh, like my devotion was literally like the same thing as yours, or
beautiful.
like, yeah, and like just scriptures that were given to us, worship songs, just different things. So even just seeing that, it's like, man, like we really didn't have that before. Obviously we were younger,
Yeah.
at 14, if you're doing your devotions every day at 14, I give you credit.
Yeah, for real.
Hats off to you.
Yeah,
Pray for
kudos
me.
to you for sure. But yeah, so like obviously being like that young, like you're not even established in your walk with the Lord,
Right.
in like by yourself, So even just the fact that we were both established in our walk, and then we got engaged, and it's like, okay, like this is exactly why we were meant to win.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, from Abby?
I'll say like kind of like similar to her, like obviously, just like her personality and her character, like who she was. I was like always attracted to that. She was always like super good with kids, and like literally
Jules
like
is amazing with kids.
like my own
Amazing.
cousins probably like her more than they like me. Like, and I don't
Probably,
get
yeah.
offended. Like I don't get offended. Like obviously I know. Obviously I know like that she's like super good. I'm like, and I'm like, how do you do it? Like, how do you like have the patience like to deal with kids? And I'm like, but she's always had that. And, like that's always like something I've been attracted to. And, like just her personality, like her soft, not like kind of like her soft spoken like personality. She's always been very mature, and like we've never. Like thankfully we never gone to like that toxic like
Yeah.
stage, like cussing each other out and all that.
No.
Like we never went through that. So like I was just really like like she, like everything about her, like she was like oh, like this can be like, I saw like a wife in her. And like I
That's
always saw that.
beautiful.
So like I never like questioned like I never questioned like will she be a good wife, will she be a good mother. Like I always knew like from the back like she's gonna be all of that.
Did
So-
it make you want to like better yourself? Like, did it put some fire underneath you?
Yeah,
type of thing?
definitely like even like with kids, like I was never like around. Like she was like always like watching kids, like
Yeah.
like saying like, oh, like I can watch, I can babysit. And like for me, like obviously like, I was like a boy, so I'll just be like in my room playing. And like definitely with like her godson, like he was I don't know if you guys know him, like Jesse, baby Jesse. He was her godson before, and then like obviously once we started like to know each other, like his parents obviously like thankfully they asked me to be his godparent
Aw.
too.
Yeah.
Aw.
And just through that, like I try to like be like the best, godparent that I can be. Obviously, like I didn't have the best godparents or, so yeah, it definitely did like um encourage me to like be better, and obviously like through her like her mothering nature and like her loving nature, like obviously I wanted like to do that, and like obviously like kind of growing up I never like was shown that, like not like in a bad way, like my parents obviously like raised me, like I think they raised me great, and like obviously I love my parents, but just like kind of like that, obviously like in a Mexican household like, you don't
Yeah.
really see
Yeah.
like emotions more, so she definitely like showed me like how to obviously like be more in touch with your emotions, and obviously like when you're engaged and like when you're getting married, like you kind of like have to like acknowledge all those emotions. You can't just be like, because like growing up, like I had sisters, but like I would kind of like just dust them off. Like
it wasn't your responsibility.
yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't my responsibility,
Yeah.
but like obviously like when you're in the relationship, like it's your responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was definitely like a learning curve, and like obviously like she helped me with that, and like just being like sympathetic for her, and obviously just like learning like more about myself.
That's awesome. It's beautiful.
I was like,
I
I really
love
like
it.
that. So I love that you guys both brought up when you saw them with a child, or the kids in your family. You saw the mother of your future children. You saw the father of your future children.
Yeah.
And there's a scripture in Malachi that says the purpose of marriage is to raise godly children. And so that's a really godly spiritual instinct that you guys had, is that you guys just weren't looking at, this is my girlfriend, this is my future wife. Like it wasn't this. I feel like that can be such a selfish thought to have, like this is my woman or this
Yeah.
is my man,
Yeah.
and to stay in that really immature place. But you guys saw, this is the mother, this is the father of my future children.
Yeah.
And this is the person who's going to help me raise godly children. And I think that's just such a God-given, mature, spiritual response to have. And it just shows that, again, you guys keep talking about how when we just surrendered to God, like he just had everything fall in place,
Yeah.
and it's just continually bringing it back to, you do it God's way, it falls into place.
Yeah.
And he has a plan and he has a purpose.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely agree.
Very beautiful. Okay, so with that, I feel like we can continue talking for like ever, but I just really wanted people to hear it. Honestly, it's a little bit selfish too, because I just wanted to hear what you guys had to say, because I feel like your stories are really beautiful. I mean, yeah, it's just awesome. So with that, we have this custom at what's the name of this called? At In the Vine. At In the Vine. What's happening? With In the Vine, and that is to leave our listeners with the tip. So I asked you guys to come up with some tips. So please share, what are your tips?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bye.
I'm gonna go
You want to
first.
go first?
Yeah. Obviously, like kind of like with the nature of this episode, I definitely like seek God in everything you do. Like trust me, like when I say that, like I really mean like trust God and like give everything you have to Him.
Yeah.
Don't try to do it on your own. Don't just try to do it with your spouse. I would say like everything you can give to Him, like and everything, like just give it to Him.
It's good.
Seek God in everything. Any decision, I would say like you want to do what God's doing. Like I always tell like I want like to go through the door that God opened for me. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to open my own door
Yeah.
and go down that way, because obviously that never works.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So definitely like I always tell her like my prayers like for God to open doors and like for Him to close any doors that don't need to be open.
It's
Yeah.
good.
So that's just my advice, and like I would say just seek God in everything and just pray to God first, and obviously seek His counsel, and His counsel will never let you down.
That's
Yeah.
so good. Would you mind actually sharing that testimony that you have about your job?
Oh yeah. So I was I work at CarMax right here in Palmdale, and I had worked there for it's been 3 years now, and I never really saw it like as a like long term. Obviously I've been there 3 years now. I kind of started when I was in college, so it was kind of hard like balancing life and work and college, but luckily like God got me through it. But it came to a point where like I was like trying to like move up. I'm like, like this is not like, because at the time I was just detailing cars, and like that's not like, I knew God didn't just call me for that.
Yeah.
So like I started like to really pray, and like my mom like always told me like God put you there for a reason, like see what He has for you there. And I was like, but like I want to just leave.
But
I want
what's, like, who cares?
yeah, I'm like, yeah, who cares? Like, I want to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really want to be there. But she just told me, like, like, just see what he has for you there. And, like, obviously I didn't want to do it at first, but then, like, obviously I started praying. I was like, like, God opened doors.
Mhm.
And I had a lot of favor there. Like, the managers would not, like, favor me, but, like, they started, like, selecting me out from, like, the rest. And, like,
Mm.
they would come up to me and be like, we want you, like, to grow and, like, be in a management position. And, like, I never went up to them for that. Like, they would come up to me and, like, they would see that. And they always, like, said, like, there's, like, something different about you. Like, you're not, like, everybody else.
Mm.
And they always, like, pointed out my integrity and, like, just that, like, they would always trust me with, like, with anything.
Mhm.
Like, they were giving me, like, company cars to, like, go place and, like, technically, like, I shouldn't be doing that, but, like, they
Yeah.
trusted me, like, and I never gave them an issue, like, to not trust me. So a moment came up for me to get into, like, a lead / supervisor position. And, like, in that location, it's, like, very competitive. It's one of, like, the leading, like, production stores in the whole company.
Mm, wow.
So a lot of people want to grow out of that location, which is right here in Palmdale. So it was very competitive to get into that position. And obviously, like, I did everything I could. Like, I'm not just gonna say, like, God opened the door
Yeah.
and I just let my foot off the gas. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I was
That's a
definitely
good saying. I like
yeah.
that.
It definitely took a lot of work and a lot of, like, overtime, staying late.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was just giving everything to God, and I was doing my part to the best that I could. And obviously, like, the time came up for interviews. I interview, and then you just wait. And then I finally get pulled in, and then my managers were like, were messing with me.
Oh my
They're
God.
like, yeah, unfortunately, like, and once I heard unfortunately, I was like, great, like, I didn't,
Done.
yeah.
Yeah.
Once you hear that,
Starts
Tuned
crying.
out.
once,
Yeah.
once you hear that in an
Slam the
interview,
desk.
Yeah.
once you hear that in an
I'm
interview,
out.
it's never a good
Yeah.
sign. So literally, I, like, checked out. I was like, I did all this for nothing. Like, I was
Mhm.
staying late. I was working hard. Like, I was, like, doing everything that, like, and, like, obviously I wasn't getting paid, like, different. Like, I was just doing it just because, like, I was working hard, and, like, I hear this and I'm like, I just tuned out. Like,
Yeah.
and, like, even they told me after, like, we just saw, like,
You're
your
fake.
face. Yeah. Yeah, so I was already mad, and then he was like, yeah, unfortunately we went with someone else.
Oh my gosh, they really went.
Yeah, so
for
he
They
kept
did.
going with it, and then he was obviously like, you can work on this, and that, but then they're like, but we really like what you do, like, you're a hard worker, like, you stay, we can trust you. So then they're like, because of that, like, we want to offer you the position, and I was like, whoa, like, you just told me, like,
Yeah.
I just hated you, like, right now, and now you're telling me
Yeah.
that you gave me the
Now I'm
position.
Yeah.
Right?
And obviously they started going into that, like, obviously, like, they've seen me grow, like, in the company, and, like, one of my, like, the senior managers, he's Muslim, and he was like, what really made you stand out was, like, your integrity.
Mm.
You're someone that we can trust, like, and your integrity shows, like, through you and, like, through your work.
Yeah.
And, like, when he had told me that, like, I was like, wow, like, because I had gotten a word about, like, my integrity. Aaron gave me a word saying, like, my integrity is gonna, like, take me places.
Yeah.
And, like, he said, like, hey, hang on to your integrity. And, like, I mean, that's what I did. Like, I never let that go. And, like, obviously, hanging on to that, like, when he said that, like, it came, like, a full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So I was like,
beautiful.
wow, God, like, you really, like, looked out for me. And,
Yeah.
like, it just goes back to, like, just giving it to him.
This was after the proposal that this happened, right? Or
Yeah.
before?
Yeah. This happened, like, in September was when I started.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I
That's
got
amazing.
engaged in
Mhm.
June.
Wow. The
Yeah.
Lord be
Yeah.
doing things like that, y'all.
Right?
So good. What about you, Jules? What's your tip?
I think my tip would just be kind of along the lines that he said, not only seek God, but also just surrender it all to him. And I think that's something that a lot of people, you hear it all the time, but I think you don't really understand what it means. You know,
Yeah.
like I always think of that picture where like the little girl's holding her little teddy
Oh,
bear.
yeah.
And she's like, I don't want to let it go, but it's like, really, like, look at this big, huge thing that God
Yeah.
has for you. And so I think, yeah, just to surrender it all to God, and you'll see what he's going to work out in your life.
Yeah, for sure. I love
Yeah.
it. Well, I think Shakana and I can both agree that we're just so proud of you guys.
Thank you.
I honestly, as I was praying earlier, like I think that even this podcast is so prophetic over what God is going to do in both of your guys' lives. And so I'm really excited for the doors that God is going to open for you guys. I'm so excited for the way that you guys are going to grow. I'm excited for babies.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to get down with the get down. The wedding day.
The wedding day.
Yeah, so we're just so excited.
Yes.
And with that, thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes.
I know that we ran a little bit long, but totally worth it. I hope that you guys stay tuned in, and we will see you next episode. Bye.
Thank you.